knows how to show love to our everyday heroes. So if you're a first responder, you are in for some perks. Lots of hotels and casino offer big discounts to any first responders who can show valid work or volunteer ID. So treat yourself to a discounted stay. You deserve it. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
But still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Derek Carr has called it a career after 11 NFL seasons.
I think they knew before the draft that they had to make a move at this point. And by the way, Derek Carr did have a pretty good career. Made as many Pro Bowls as Eli Manning. So based on that, he should go to the Hall of Fame like Eli Manning. Well, Eli Manning does have a couple rings at that point, but always wanted to take a shot at Manning, who should not actually be in the Hall of Fame. Shouldn't be questioned an under 500 quarterback for his career. Stop the man.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of
15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on Sports.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Thanks for watching and streaming our show here on this Monday morning. We have plenty to cover here on today's show, including a fantastic finish at the PGA Championship, a very familiar name winning once again, becoming one of the more historical players now on the PGA Tour. We'll get to that. Also, we are all set for the Eastern Conference and Western Conference finals, of course, in the East and West, in hockey, and in the National Basketball Association. So you can assume that a lot of topics coming your way on that as well. We'll get into the very latest on sports betting with our guest contributor from Legal Sports Report. We'll also talk some Major League Baseball and, of course, break everything down in the world of sports betting as well. But let's begin with the National Basketball Association. It took 7 games for Oklahoma City to get through Denver, but they did it as they've been doing all along. Either Oklahoma City wins big or they lose. That's kind of been the story in this series against the Denver Nuggets. So what did they do yesterday? They won not just big, but really big. 125-93 to advance to the Western Conference Finals. It begins tomorrow. Nuggets actually had an 11-point lead very early on in the game, but then it was just all Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who had 35 points, hitting his shots, hitting his free throws, as he always does too. And so, as expected, they're headed to the Western Conference Finals. Here's head coach Mark Daigneault on the opportunity after beating the Nuggets in a very tough series.
Just that we were who we are, that's the biggest thing. That's enough with this team. I mean, if we just bet on who we are individually and collectively, we're a really hard team to beat. And I just thought we stayed in character. We got off to a rough start. We didn't panic. We just played the 48. And we tapped into who we are, and that's the thing that I'm most, satisfied with is I would hate to play a game 7 like this, an elimination game, and leave anything on the table. You can live with the result and when you are who you are, and that's what we did today.
It means a lot, specifically for the city. They've been so good all year. They've been behind us through good, through bad. Like it feels like no team in the league has home court advantage like we do, and that's all due to them with the t-shirts, the cheering, the screaming, the chants. They really give us like energy out there, and we've been a better team because of them and having them behind us, and to know that if we didn't bring it tonight, it could be over for them as well. It wasn't fair, and we wanted to play for them as well.
good luck getting tickets to the Eastern Conference Finals, especially at Madison Square Garden. Those are going to be impossible as the Knicks took care of the Celtics over the weekend, 119-81, and the Knicks are on the doorstep of the NBA Finals. Wow, that seems crazy. First time Knicks have made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, by the way, since 2000. That was a really, really long time ago. Knicks had 4 players score 20-plus points. Naturally, the MVP of the series, I don't think they give one in a series like this, but it would be Jalen Brunson. He has been so good for them all season long. Now Tom Thibodeau has his work cut out for him against Indiana. Here's Thibodeau talking about how gritty and tough the Knicks were down the stretch.
Yeah, and again, it's how you respond to the challenge that's in front of you. And so, and we can't get carried away. Obviously, it's a great win, and we advance. And, you look at that, but you also understand you have to get ready for the next series. And we know that Indiana's a terrific team, and we're going to have to be ready.
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think you have to have there's a perspective. At the end of the day, we set a goal out. We didn't achieve that goal. But shouldn't take away, from me, from the mindset and the effort that the players put in. So, we have a responsibility and ownership. We didn't do it, but the approach, the process to it, you can't ask for any more from the guys. So I thought they gave everything they had throughout the season. Obviously we didn't achieve that, but you can't take away from what they did. And, this is the price you pay for trying to go after something, and that's how it goes. But really just thankful to the guys, for who they are as people and what they've done as players, what they've done as a team.
Nobody playing better in the world of golf the last couple of years than Scottie Scheffler, folks. He won the PGA Championship. This guy is out of control. He finished 11 under par. Late on Sunday, John Rahm made a nice run. Rahm missed some tough putts. 11 under par gives Scottie the PGA Championship. If you were following, by the way, over the weekend, historical too, on Thursday and into Friday, Jonathan Vegas from Venezuela was leading. He was the first Venezuelan player ever to lead and even be as close as he was going into Sunday. But naturally, Scottie Scheffler is the winner yet again. This guy just wins major after major and seemingly says that winning never gets old.
Well, kind of what I reminded myself at the turn was I had a bite to eat, and I told myself, if I keep making good swings, I'm not going to continue to hit the ball left every time, statistically speaking. And so, I just tried to get up there on number 10 and hit a good shot, and that's really all I was thinking about. I was just trying to get the ball in the fairway, and, I knew I needed 9 really good holes, and I hit a good tee shot on 10, good approach shot, and, I executed. From then on, fairway on 11, really good iron shot, fairway on 12, really good iron shot on 13, good tee ball on 14, good birdie there, 2 great shots on 15. From 10 through 15, I felt like I executed as good as I had almost all week. And, that was a very important time in the tournament. And, I'm definitely proud of that kind of fight we showed there in that little stretch.
In Major League Baseball over the weekend, couple of big news and notes in case you missed it. The Baltimore Orioles were swept yesterday by the Washington Nationals, and Brandon Hyde was fired before the weekend games. He went 421 and 495 in 7 years with Baltimore. They also DFA'd one of their free agent signings, Kyle Gibson, a starting pitcher. It has been one of the worst Orioles seasons in recent memory, and they were supposed to be good going in. And also the Yankees take the Subway Series, in case you missed that one, as Cody Bellinger hit a grand slam last night on Sunday Night Baseball. As the Yankees win, they beat the Mets, and Juan Soto's return to the Bronx didn't necessarily go as planned. In fact, Soto, if I'm not mistaken, went 1 for 10 with 4 walks and 3 strikeouts, and only a Yankees fan who's a producer would put those stats in there for me to read on the show because he's jealous that he's not a Yankee anymore. The Florida Panthers beat the Toronto Maple Leafs in 7 games. They took a big lead early and went on to win. The defending champions got a shot to go back and play Edmonton again, seemingly. They win 6-1. The Toronto Maple Leafs fans are disgusted, distraught, but they've been here before. So they advanced to the conference finals. All 6 goals were scored by different players on the Panthers. Brad Marchand had a huge hand in some of the goals. He was the player that they acquired at the trade deadline. Here's Paul Maurice after the game, ecstatic about how his team played throughout the series, especially this game after the first period.
That's 7 games, and we played well. I didn't like our first period in game 1. We played well in the 2 losses. We We played well in game 6 and got beat. That's how tight it is. So that's how I feel about it. I mean, the margin for error is small, right? Before the puck drop tonight, there were 5 teams in the NHL left. 5. All of them capable of winning. Puck went our way tonight. That's it.
Coming up next here on the show, we're going to bring in Gilbert McGregor from Sporting News and review everything that happened in the NBA over the weekend, and also get Gilbert's picks in the Eastern Conference and Western Conference. We'll see who he thinks ends up advancing with the series getting underway today, and then, of course, hockey getting underway tomorrow as well. And for those of you who are maybe thinking about streaming our show outside of maybe watching your TV somewhere on your iPad, iPhone, or Android phone, let me tell you what you could do. Get out your phone for iPhone or Android, because we have streaming options available for you just by scanning this QR code. You can download the SportsGrid app and get all kinds of news, notes, information, including our schedule of games. And most importantly, it's great for all of the live odds going on. And specifically today, we've got a ton of Major League Baseball. The WNBA season is underway as well. I don't know if you missed that, so make sure you tune in. You can catch that as well. And gives you an idea of everything that we have going on here at SportsGrid, not just on your big screen TV, but on your phone or a tablet as well. We'll be back with Gilbert McGregor of Sporting News, SGA, about to get the MVP. I believe that's coming up next week. How did he factor in, and how can he factor in the Western Conference Finals? I'll tell you next. Don't go away.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They've won 7 in a row. They've been dominant at Citi Field. Lindor's been insane. Pete Alonso's been raking.
Griffin Canning, David Peterson, those guys have pitched really, really well. And when you put it together with that lineup, especially like you said, Lindor's been great. They've got the makings of something very special in Queens.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
Derek Carr has called it a career after 11 NFL seasons.
I think they knew before the draft that they had to make a move at this point. And by the way, Derek Carr did have a pretty good career. Made as many Pro Bowls as Eli Manning. So based on that, he should go to the Hall of Fame like Eli Manning. Well, Eli Manning does have a couple rings at that point, but always wanted to take a shot at Manning, who should not actually be in the Hall of Fame. Shouldn't be questioned an under 500 quarterback for his career. Stop the man.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of 15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish, joined by Gilbert McGregor of Sporting News. We now know the destinations of the Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals. What will happen over the next week or two? Let's check in with Gilbert. He joins me now. And Gilbert, fun weekend of NBA games. I honestly thought that we would get some close games, but we did not. The Knicks pretty much dismantled the Boston Celtics without Jason Tatum. Not a surprise. I guess the biggest surprise last night was that the Thunder just took care of business pretty early and often against the Denver Nuggets. And I guess I would ask the question for you is that did they do enough for you in this series to prove that they still deserve to be favorites to win it all?
I think they did. And I think the big reason because of that is because they won in a lot of different ways. That Thunder team, it was up and down. They blew game one, but came back and made a statement in game two and then found a way. I learned a lot about them in that game four where they were down that fourth quarter comeback in Denver. I felt like Oklahoma City learned how to win ugly, and that's important in the NBA playoffs. I think the Timberwolves match up well with them, and I know we'll talk about that series, but the Thunder needed to learn some lessons in eliminating the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic, and they grew up a lot in real time, and that gives me a lot much more confidence in this young team as they learn these lessons in real time behind their MVP hopeful in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
35 points for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on 12 of 19 field goals. They also give him a lot of crap for taking a lot of free throws. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the guy seems to make like every free throw that he takes. So, I mean, I'm not going to knock him for that. But those are the numbers. And the bottom line is he's playing like the MVP of the NBA. All right. So now we go to the series against the Minnesota Timberwolves, which no surprise here that the Thunder are big favorites. I think maybe had the series not gone 7, I think the Thunder maybe would even be bigger favorites against Minnesota. So naturally, if you want to take the Timberwolves here, Gilbert, I think maybe your best bet is to wait after game one, let OKC win, and then get your 5-1 or 6-1 or something like that. Because, honestly, the way that Oklahoma City plays at home, I just don't see them losing their games in their building.
Yeah, they kind of blew one, like I said, in game one of that series, and that might have been the one getting that loss out of their system against Denver early on last series. But, we look back this year, and I remember you and I actually talking about this at one point in the year. Minnesota actually had their fair share of success against OKC. They're a team that's playing pretty good basketball. They've only played 10 games so far, beat the Lakers in 5, beat the hobbled Steph Curry-less Warriors in 5, but Anthony Edwards has supreme confidence. Julius Randle's playing really good basketball. So I think they have a fighter's chance in this series. I think they match up well. They make life difficult for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but I also think that the Thunder, the way they won this series, they'll play a lot more freely now. They kind of got the monkey off their backs and they can feel more confident going into the conference finals. I expect a good series. I do think that the Timberwolves could at least get more than one game. I saw the over under 5.5 there. I think the Timberwolves could get 2 wins in this series.
Yeah, minus 140 there. I would expect the same thing. Minnesota, certainly is going to show up to play and win. I agree with you. Probably 2 games at least in this series. All right, let's put a bow on the Celtics season here before we get to Knicks Pacers, Gilbert, because we haven't talked since the Celtics got knocked out. They're in a little bit of a pickle here, I think. They're still going to be competitive next year, whether Tatum plays or not. But given the salaries that they have of a lot of these players, I'm not really sure that they can make some significant adjustments after the season. So do you think it's kind of a wait and see situation for the Celtics? I'm not saying that they take a year off, but let's say their odds come out at the beginning of the year and their win total, let's use that as on FanDuel. I'm going to speculate. Let's say it's like 48, 49 games, above 500, maybe 50. Do you see them tinkering with this roster at all, moving some salary, or just holding their court here until the following year?
I think change is on the horizon in Boston, and it has to be on the horizon. You talk about the payroll that they have. Because they're so far over the luxury tax, they basically double their payroll. And this roster, as it is constructed right now, is over $500 million. And that's for new ownership as well. And we got the news dump over the weekend that Jaylen Brown was playing through a partially torn meniscus. So they're weighing whether or not he's going to have surgery for that. And if he has to have surgery for that, they might go into training camp without Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Of course, we have to wait and see what happens next with that injury, but the contracts that they have, I feel like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are basically untouchable, with Jaylen Brown being the one who maybe could get moved. But anybody else, Porzingis, Drew Holiday, I think Derek White is also untouchable. But other than that, I think the Celtics could be making some moves to kind of retool this roster and save a little bit of cash.
Wednesday night, they will tip off Indiana and New York. And I know that the Knicks have the advantage of this series on paper, Gilbert, but call me crazy. I don't get this one. I mean, to me, this is a pick'em series. I'm looking at Knicks minus 146 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. The disrespect for the Pacers has just continued throughout the playoffs. What am I missing here?
I'm right there with you, Craig. I think that nobody in the playoffs right now is playing better basketball than the Pacers. That's even the Thunder, who had that big Game 7 victory. The Pacers have found ways to win. They're a deep team. They're a team built for the playoffs. Tyrese Halliburton, everybody kind of follows behind what he's doing, and everybody on that team is starring in their role. We've seen it with the Knicks. They have some depth issues, and they took care of business. But again, they fell behind by 20 points twice against the Celtics. They needed some comebacks to win that series. The Pacers are playing really good basketball. I kind of lean toward the Pacers in this series. Obviously, have to see how it plays out, but I think that their strengths are basically built to take advantage of the Knicks' weaknesses. So we could see this quickly shift after some things play out in these first 2 games in the series.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be another competitive series there. By the way, any pick changing from you on the Thunder? You're sticking with it. They're now minus 175. I mean, it was less than that, but I mean, I see nothing else to take.
It feels so strange to say that we're probably going to get a Thunder Pacers finals. At least that's what I think we're going to get, a Thunder Pacers finals. But yeah, I'm sticking with the Thunder. They're the best team right now. The Pacers are playing the best basketball. Thunder are the best team. But wouldn't it be something if after that big trade we got a Knicks Timberwolves final? So maybe that's what the league is actually hoping for. We get to see Karl-Anthony Towns against Julius Randle. But as it stands right now, I think we're going to get Thunder Pacers, and that would be a pretty wild one.
Yeah, I agree, Gilbert. But again, I'm not discounting the Knicks at all. I just think that the Pacers are a little bit underrated. I mean, just keep knocking teams off, and they're still plus money in all these series. So maybe I just don't get the NBA. It's very possible too. Thanks, Gilbert, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Absolutely, looking forward to doing it again.
All right, Gilbert McGregor of Sporting News coming up. Another 7-game series in the Eastern Conference in the National Hockey League, where the defending champions not just win, but blow out the Maple Leafs on the road. I don't think a lot of people saw that. And then we'll also preview the series between Edmonton and Dallas. Folks, we're 1 week away from having a potential rematch in the Stanley Cup Finals. Joe Madden told us that this could very well happen, and I wonder if she feels the same way. So let's do this. We'll take a out and we'll bring her in next to get her opinion right after this.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They've won 7 in a row. They've been dominant at Citi Field. Lindor's been insane. Pete Alonso's been raking.
You know, Griffin Canning, David Peterson, those guys have pitched really, really well. And when you put it together with that lineup, especially like you said, Lindor's been great. You know, they've got the makings of something very special in Queens.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
Derek Carr has called it a career after 11 NFL seasons.
I think they knew before the draft that they had to make a move at this point. And by the way, Derek Carr did have a pretty good career, made as many Pro Bowls as Eli Manning. So based on that, he should go to the Hall of Fame like Eli Manning. Well, Eli Manning does have a couple rings at that point, but always wanted to take a shot at Manning, who should not actually be in the Hall of Fame. Shouldn't be questioned, an under 500 quarterback for his career. Stop the man.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 18.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We've got the Stanley Cup Finals almost underway. We got to get through the East and the West first. Let's bring in Joe Madden to recap what we saw over the weekend and also preview the upcoming series in the East and West. Joe, welcome back to NewsWire here. Really appreciate it. Joe, let's get started here and talk about what we left off with last week, which is the collision course here that the Florida Panthers could potentially be on and facing off with the Edmonton Oilers. First, let's talk Panthers hockey. And Joe, I mean, what are we going to say here? Panthers are a really good team, very resilient, play up to the big moments. But these poor Maple Leafs fans, my gosh, every year something happens and it feels like you're just waiting for a crash and burn. And by the way, for the Maple Leafs fans, Joe, I think they probably would have accepted 3-2 or 4-3 or 2-1. But this thing was so out of hand early. I mean, the defending champions showed why they're the defending champs.
Yeah, exactly. We saw what happened in game 5 happen here in game 7 to the Toronto Maple Leafs with that complete fall apart. 6-1 final score for the Florida Panthers. And this is what the Florida Panthers do best. They wear down teams. Matthew Tkachuk saying it yesterday in his press conference. That's their plan. They come out hard hitting. They get those forechecks in and they wear down their opponent. Now they were nicely able to do that. And they came out so aggressive in yesterday's matchup. Coming out on the ice in that first period, they had 21 shots on a net to 0 shots for the Toronto Maple Leafs, working that defense, not allowing the Leafs to have any opportunity. And they came out in that second period and did the same thing. They really wore out the defense there, got past them, got those shots on goal and didn't allow anything. So we look at Seth Jones, the defenseman, so aggressive in yesterday's game, and the Toronto Maple Leafs just couldn't keep pace with them. They couldn't get anything done. And it is sad here for Leafs fans with that core 4. It has to go. It's not working. You've got Mitch Marner. He's an unrestricted free agent, and I do think he'll be the first one to make a move, and I think he'll choose to make the move over the Leafs choosing to let him go.
It's going to be a great series, I think, coming up with Carolina. Let's get to this matchup here, which is somewhat of a coin flip, although I will say the Panthers are slight favorites on FanDuel, Joe, this morning. -128, Carolina +106. So look, let's be clear, a little juice on the Panthers, -128. Total amount of games over 5.5 is -210. It feels like every series, Joe, the Panthers are in from the beginning to the end is more than 5.5 games, but that's -210. So it's not really value bettable. Do you have anything in particular in this series? I think last week you kind of, I think you alluded to the fact that you think the Panthers are going back to the finals, right?
Yeah, I absolutely think the Florida Panthers are going back to the finals. So right now you can take them to win the series. That's coming in at -126. Now they're just coming off that game versus Toronto. So if they do slip up in game 1, you're going to get a better number after game 1 if Carolina is able to pull off that win. But then you risk the fact of what happened back in 2023 in the conference finals, where the Florida Panthers absolutely swept the Carolina Hurricanes. Now the Carolina Hurricanes have had the easiest path to get here, going through Montreal and then the Washington Capitals. And no disrespect to them, but the Florida Panthers are at a different level than those teams. And I do think Carolina is going to struggle. This will come down to goaltending, and I also think you can look at this series total goals. We look at elite kills on both sides, elite defenses, and while they have potent offenses, I do think this will be a lower scoring one. FanDuel right now has under 34.5 goals for the series, coming in at -130, so you'll still have to lay the juice, but I do think it happens, and I would take the Florida Panthers to win this in 6.
All right, so now we have the Edmonton Oilers taking on the Dallas Stars. You accurately said Edmonton's going to wrap it up. Before, when we talked last, they did. At another coin flip series against Dallas, I think probably, Joe, a few weeks ago, Dallas would have been a bigger favorite, but the Oilers are rolling right now, and we're looking at more or less the same odds in both series, which is sort of incredible. And, Panthers and Oilers, by the way, and we're going to look at this in a second, are both equally favored to win the Cup. So, Joe, I think last week also you came on and said it's going to be Florida Edmonton. So here we are. Are you going to stick with that? I'll give you your chance to pivot off this before the series begins.
No, I can't pivot off this one. While you look at the Dallas Stars and you look at their goaltending with Jake Ottinger and you look at their depth on all 4 lines, you've got power up and down. The Edmonton Oilers just keep getting better and better each and every single game. The LA Kings did everyone a disservice not taking them out when they weren't completely healthy in that first round, and they've allowed Edmonton to get here, then getting through Vegas. Skinner, we've had question marks around him each and every year, but now Skinner really showed up 2 shutouts in the last one versus Vegas. I think Edmonton takes the series -118 in 6, coming in at +195.
All right, Joe, great stuff as always. Good predictions too last week from you. We'll catch up again very soon. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, Joe Madden with us. Coming up next, Pat Evans is with us from Legal Sports Report, the very latest on a new bill in Ohio and these prediction markets. may not be existing in the state of Michigan anytime soon. We'll be right back.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They've won 7 in a row. They've been dominant at Citi Field. Lindor's been insane. Pete Alonso's been raking.
You know, Griffin Canning, David Peterson, those guys have pitched really, really well. And when you put it together with that lineup, especially like you said, Lindor's been great. You know, they've got the makings of something very special in Queens.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
Derek Carr has called it a career after 11 NFL seasons.
I think they knew before the draft that they had to make a move at this point. And by the way, Derek Carr did have a pretty good career, made as many Pro Bowls as Eli Manning. So based on that, he should go to the Hall of Fame like Eli Manning. Well, Eli Manning does have a couple rings at that point, but always wanted to take a shot at Manning, who should not actually be in the Hall of Fame. Shouldn't be questioned an under 500 quarterback for his career. Stop the Manning.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple 18.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Pat Evans is with us from Legal Sports Report, and he's got some new stories, by the way, some interesting stories here, too, to bring to us here on the table. Let's bring Pat in to get started. Pat, hope you had a great weekend. Thanks again for coming on the show. All the pleasantries now out of the way. All right, so let's start off with this new article that you guys have up over at Legal Sports Report. We're hearing a lot in the early part of the year and now second quarter of the year, too, that a lot of the different states around the country are trying to find new inventive ways to make more money off sports betting, as they should. They see a lot of money coming in. So generally what we see is a lot of these proposals for tax hikes, meaning that if the state regulators are taxing 20% or 30%, they want to increase to 40 or 50. But in the state of Ohio, they're not exactly doing that, but they are asking for a bigger cut. How are they trying to get this done?
Yeah, Ohio's been an interesting state to follow in that sense this year. I mean, to your point, earlier this year, Governor Mike DeWine said, hey, let's double the tax rate in his proposed budget from 20% to 40%. And that's, of course, after in 2023, he went ahead and doubled it from the original 10% in legislation to 20%. And last year, lawmakers said, whoa, that was a little premature. Let's not do that. And then he comes out this year to say, double it again. Lawmakers, of course, largely said, no, let's not do that and stripped it out of the budget. And so now you're kind of seeing different ways pop up. And this one is kind of a unique situation is you've got a proposed 2% tax rate on the handle, overall handle. Generally, the tax rate is on the gross revenue from sportsbook operators. And that's generally, between anywhere from, 10% to 51% New York, or, all the states get to put it at different rates. This 2% is interesting because there's only one other market that taxes the handle. And of course, that's just what's bet, not what these sports books are making. And that's Tennessee. And Tennessee's been an interesting market regulatorily to watch and see that. And what's interesting here, though, is if it's replacing, which isn't fully clear yet, the 20% revenue tax, it really doesn't bring in that much more money. It's about the same. If it's on top, it effectively doubles the overall taxes that the operators will pay. Interestingly, our Eric Ramsey, our analyst over at Legal Sports Report, has kind of he dove into the numbers a little bit and was like, only a couple of operators, yes, including FanDuel, because of the way they make the money on same game parlays and the like. So it is an interesting way that the Ohio legislators may be looking to kind of increase their tax rate a little bit ultimately, based on the governor's proposed tax increase not going through. Also being talked about in Ohio, and it may have a streamline to the finish line, possibly, is an online casino bill, which kind of would also do the same thing of achieving a lot more tax revenue. And so, yeah, that's going to be interesting to kind of watch this. Of course, gaming is a, very scrutinized subject in Ohio. There was that report that I just mentioned last year that said, online casino would be a good way to bring in more revenue. The sports betting tax rate was premature. So there's all sorts of things to be talked about. Well, so I'll keep an eye on it, of course, and keep you informed, Craig, on what's happening in Ohio.
All right, so now let's move to Ontario, and a topic that we really haven't hit on a lot this year, and that's probably a good thing, are the offshores, the sports betting markets outside of the United States and Canada. And apparently, a really good idea, by the way, Ontario in particular, looking for people like us to make people aware of what is legal and what is not legal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think best. When I come on here, I talk a lot about, U.S. regulators saying no to offshore and black market operators. And now we're looking at Ontario. I mean, Ontario, when they launched single event sports wagering or legalized it in August 2021, one of their main goals was to shut down the gray market. And that's particularly in Ontario, where they opened commercial operators and now have 40 plus regulated licensed sports betting operators. That gray market, which existed because it wasn't explicitly illegal, it just wasn't regulated, that is now illegal. So once they launched the commercial market, they said, okay, we'll give these unlicensed operators until October to withdraw. So that was October 2022. They were pretty happy with it. Quite a few operators, including Bet365, Betway, these major European operators were in that gray market that were not illegal, they just weren't regulated. They all switched over to the regulated market and are now paying taxes, the like. But yeah, the Ontario regulators came out this month and said, hey, media partners in the province, can you stop promoting illegal operators? And that's something you see a lot, and they specifically called out Bodog. But yeah, you see, even now, even in the US, you see relatively big name media publications sometimes still citing offshore sports books like Bovada and BetUS. And especially once you get into the social media influencer world, you kind of see some of these offshores sports books, kind of slipping into the influencers, and the influencers are telling their, thousands or millions of followers to go to these offshore sports books to bet. And that's one of the reasons you want to regulate, is to bring it into the light, make sure it's consumer safety and everything is in place. And so it's interesting that Ontario comes out and says, hey, media partners, can you stop doing this? And to your point, I think we do a pretty good job of making sure we're only highlighting the legal operators that are guaranteed to be safe for consumers.
Finally, let's get to the state that you know best, Michigan, and the topic that we know best, prediction markets, right? It's like hand in hand here. All right, so what's the latest in Michigan? Pat, the cease and desists, it's just so bizarre to me that some states are like, yeah, no problem, just, operate however you want. Other states are like, nah. I mean, it feels like this is like a national regulation coming at some point.
So that's where we're in a weird spot, is there is the federal regulated CFTC who's saying it's okay. And that's where you're seeing the Kelshys and the like say, hey, Nevada, you can't tell us to leave. New Jersey, you can't tell us to leave. We're suing for the right to be here. So those are all ongoing in courts at the moment. Michigan is one of those states that I talk about ad nauseum of cease and desist letters and being very strict in regulating their market, which is, again, one of the reasons to regulate a market. They've sent nearly 50 cease and desist letters to a variety of offshore sports books, online casinos, sweepstake operators, and the like. And now, we're seeing they are interested in the prediction markets. They're not exactly saying you can't operate. They haven't sent cease and desist letters yet. They've seen what Kalshi is doing to Nevada and New Jersey and Maryland, who have all said, hey, get out. And the courts so far are ruling with Kalshi. But they did send a letter to CFTC saying they do have concerns. And, we were supposed to have a CFTC hearing on these sports prediction markets, which has generated a lot of interest, a lot of handle in states like California and Texas, where sports betting isn't illegal through sports books. And so it is a lot of interest in it, and the CFTC said, wait a second, no, we're not going to hold this. And so it's to be determined whether or not they're actually going to hold this and actually have more scrutiny in the prediction markets, and how state regulators are saying this isn't okay with us, so how is it okay at a federal level? It's a lot happening. It's a lot that's going to continue to shape out as we've seen multiple kind of sectors of the sports betting industry shape up, whether it's the sweepstakes or DFS 2.0 or now these sports prediction markets. A lot of different entries, not just your FanDuels and DraftKings.
And by the way, Pat, since we last talked, we found out Missouri was launching sports betting on December the 1st. Does that seem to be on track with you?
Yeah, I confirmed it last week with the Missouri Gaming Commission, and hey, at least we have a date. It's been years of talking about this with you of when Missouri might go live, and finally we have a date of December 1st. So Missourians will soon, relatively soon, have legal sports betting.
And they'll be very full after Thanksgiving. Thanks again, Pat, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. We'll talk again later this week. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks as always, Craig.
All right, coming up next, Coach Young is all fired up because the team in his backyard, the New York Knicks, are going to be playing in the Eastern Conference Finals. But can they defeat the Pacers? That's the big question. We'll ask him that next. Don't go away.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and that's long rehab. You're talking
That's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times, but screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Let's dive deeper into the NBA with our very own Coach Young, who's going to be super busy here with us over the next week or two as we get ready for what appears to be a classic Eastern Conference Finals. Indiana Pacers and New York Knicks Coach, Celtics just came up short here. I can't really blame them. I mean, you lose your best player. I don't know how you're supposed to win this series, but it does feel like we could be headed toward, I think, at least in the East, a 7-game series. I mean, quite frankly, I hate to get ahead of myself here. I don't get how the Knicks are such big favorites against Indiana. Obviously, you know a lot more than me about this, but I just am not getting it.
Well, I think a couple of reasons why the Knicks are favored, and good morning, Craig. They're not huge favorites. I think it's a lot different than what we see out west, obviously, between Oklahoma City and Minnesota. The reason why the Knicks are favored is, number one, they have the home court advantage. Number two, the fact that they knocked out the reigning and defending NBA champions. Now, people are going to sit there and say, oh, Jason Tatum was hurt. Jason Tatum was hurt in a 9-point game with 3 minutes left to go. So simply put, that was probably 3-1 no matter what. And no matter if they had Jason Tatum or not, he's not enough to overcome a 38-point beatdown is what the Knicks gave Boston. So I think it's a lot to do with what they see last in regards to New York. Now, in regards to this series, I think it goes a long series. I think it goes longer than 5.5 games. That's why you see it at major minus money at minus 152. I think it's 6-7 is the sweet spot here. And it's really going to come down to a couple of things. Number one, can Indiana play the game at their pace? They are the more athletic team. They're the deeper team. Can they get out and run in transition and do what they do best? But on the Knicks side, it's about the offensive glass. And I want people to understand this, Craig, because I don't think they really do. Mitchell Robinson has a huge impact on this team. Everybody says, well, they didn't beat Oklahoma City. They didn't beat Cleveland. They didn't beat Boston. You're absolutely right. And all those games but the last one in the regular season, they did not have Mitchell Robinson at all. That game was a 119-117 win by Boston. He dominates the game in a way that people don't get. Protecting the rim, his coverage and pick and rolls, and most importantly, in offensive rebounding. So, yeah, close series. I think you're right. 6-7 games. Definitely would not take the under 5.5. I don't see any way that happens like that. This is a long series.
By the way, the starting five, I saw this group play against the Miami Heat, this starting five of the Knicks. It was Heat Knicks back in the day, back and forth in those days. Sprewell, Houston, Ward, Larry Johnson, Patrick Ewing. I mean, that's a group there. Ewing, of course, Hall of Famer.
And I just wanted to interrupt that. Just keep that up there, Frankie. Me being the Knick connoisseur guy that I am, we got to fix this lineup here. Charlie Ward was the point guard. Sprewell was the shooting forward. But also, if you remember, Craig, that was also in 1999 where Patrick Ewing was playing with a partially torn Achilles, missed a game winner in game 2, missed the rest of the series, and that's the Larry Johnson 4-point play. This is rivalry that's gone past 35 years. Like, we're going back to the early 90s with Reggie Miller and John Starks in a headbutt in the 92 playoffs. The Reggie Miller 25-point fourth quarter in game number 5. The Ewing tip-in 94, the missed layup in 95. These teams have had history, and it's amazing to see Indiana, who hasn't been to the NBA Finals since 2000 when they beat, guess who? The New York Knicks. And the Knicks, who last made the NBA Finals in 1989, guess who they beat? Indiana Pacers. It's fitting that those two teams are facing off in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Who are you picking?
Knicks in 7. Knicks in 7. I think the Knicks are the better team, especially their starting 5. They are the healthier team, and I think Mitchell Robinson poses as well. Also, sneaky bet: Karl Anthony Towns averaged 30 points a game this past season versus Indiana. This is a team that's going to struggle to defend Cat. I would be looking at Karl Anthony Towns props to possibly lead the series in scoring. There's a possibility of that because May Smith will go on and Nembhard will go ahead and guard Jalen Brunson. But on the flip side, look to Josh Hart to lead the series in reboundings. I think the fact that Miles Turner is going to bring Cat away from the basket, Mitchell Robinson, in fact, takes away some minutes, and Josh Hart is a demon on the boards.
Now let's get to the Western Conference. Oklahoma City takes Game 7 against Denver. It was a competitive series, but eventually the Thunder are going to get you. And I think, having home court definitely meant something for them in the Western Conference Finals. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 35 points. Jalen Williams had 24. And, still OKC favorites to win it all, favorites to win the West, favorites against Minnesota. I mean, look, you can't not be impressed by the Thunder, but it just goes to show you, Coach, that no matter what you do in the regular season, playoff basketball, some teams take you to the tilt. Denver did just that.
Well, you got to look at the championship pedigree, Craig, of the Denver Nuggets with Nikola Jokic. And listen, Aaron Gordon was a warrior. Christian Brown, fantastic. Obviously, it was the play and the shooting of Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray that did Denver in offensively. But what got Oklahoma City going, let's be honest, everyone was talking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who should get his MVP award some point before Game 1 or Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. To me, it's the play of Jalen Williams, someone that struggled mightily since Game 3, gave you 3 stinkers, and that big 15-2 run, Craig, in the second quarter, with Jalen Williams shot 5 of 5, 11 points down the end of that stretch in the second quarter. That was the knockout punch that everyone was waiting to see from Oklahoma City. They threw that knockout punch at the end of the second quarter. Let's be honest, Craig, they never recovered.
You're picking Oklahoma City in how many games? That's the only question, Coach.
You know, it's interesting. And I was on Minnesota to make it. I don't think, Craig, this goes more than 5 games. I like the under 5.5 games, plus a 114. I'm going to take the Thunder minus 2.5 games. I think they close out in 5. The reason why Minnesota was able to take advantage of the Lakers and obviously of Golden State was due to their lack of size. But now you have Hartenstein, and then you have Chet Holmgren in the front court to offset Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid, and Julius Randle. And it's just too much offensive firepower. Give me OKC, 5 games or less.
All right. And, Coach, appreciate the time as always. We'll check back in later in the week or next week as we move toward the finals. Thanks again.
Thanks, Craig.
Coming up next, some last licks. Antonio Brown in the news again. I thought we banned Antonio Brown from this show. Guess not. We'll talk about him. And also what one fan did at the PGA Championship. Don't think he made a lot of money, but he may have made a fool of himself. Of course, we'll have that.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
does.
They
played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
I told you he's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing your thing now where you double down on a take
that is incorrect. The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not
a 7th-round
There were
pick
2
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Lots to cover, including a topic from the PGA Championship, what one fan did to try and secure a piece of history that was not. Also, Antonio Brown in the news, as I mentioned again, and a stellar performance from one of the best in baseball. Time now for some last licks. All right, let's begin with Paul Skeens of the Pittsburgh Pirates, who just continues to dazzle, doesn't get much run support. And that would have happened again yesterday. This is like the same story, it feels like, all season long. Pirates fired their manager. Yeah, that's going to lead to some run scoring. Not so much. The Pittsburgh Pirates lose to the Philadelphia Phillies by a final score of 1-0. And of course, because the Phillies were at home and they don't have to bat in the ninth, Skeens went the distance. It's his first complete game, but it's only 8 innings because they won 1-0. Yes, 8 innings pitched, 1 run, 9 strikeouts for Paul Skeens. Can we please get this guy some help? I mean, this is just crazy what's been going on with the Pirates. We found about Orioles. I mean, 3 managers fired, by the way, in the first 2 months of the Major League Baseball season. You don't see that a lot, but it just goes to show the teams are just getting tired of losing. I mean, Pirates still have a long way to go here. And the bottom line is they got to get some offense. But, I mean, they knew they needed offense in the offseason. They really didn't attack it. Congrats to Paul Skeens, though. Great pitcher. Complete game with 8 innings pitched. All right, caught this one over the weekend. This is, another disaster. But, I mean, anytime Antonio Brown is in the news, it's usually about him, screwing up in some way. And look, it still remains to be seen because this only happened a couple of days ago, but it does appear that Antonio Brown was at a boxing match of some kind, and it was in South Florida, by the way. And Antonio Brown, some people, he says, tried to jump him for his chains, and then there was a skirmish after. Of course, this is all caught on video now. Everybody's got a phone. It's Antonio Brown running around like a crazy person, people trying to attack him. Antonio Brown looked like he was, I guess, still has handlers at this point even though he's not playing anymore. And it looked like he even was attacking them, didn't know who he was even attacking, people on the ground. But then he posted a video of him with the boxer hours later hanging out in his locker room. So, hey, Antonio Brown, for shows like ours, is the gift that just keeps on giving. It just never ends. And to think that this guy not that long ago was the very best wide receiver in the National Football League is kind of crazy. But, again, I'm going to give him benefit of the doubt on this one. It seems like AB was not at fault for anything that happened this weekend at this boxing match. All right, there's no, differentiating who was at fault here. Now, it's hard to believe that this is really happening, but pieces of memorabilia these days are worth a lot. We get it. And game-used memorabilia is actually worth a lot more than just the actual memorabilia and signed autographs at this point, because they can photo match this sort of stuff. But a fan was so crazy this weekend that he decided it'd be a good idea to chase down an errant shot from Masters champion Rory McIlroy. But here's the problem. Number one, this was not the Masters. And number two, Rory McIlroy did not win the PGA Championship. So this dude jumps into the water to get an errant ball that Rory McIlroy hit. Naturally, unless I'm missing something here, McIlroy could not play this ball. But now the fan has a ball that was hit wrong by Rory McIlroy. So I guess the question is, if indeed he wanted to sell this thing, how much would this be? Just a shot that was hit in the water by Rory McIlroy? Is this worth hundreds of dollars, Frank? Is it 100? Is it 3 figures? I was going to say this may be just as worth as much as the ball. Maybe a little bit more because it was hit by McIlroy. I'll say $30, $40, $50? 100? Would it be worth 100? And then now you're soaked all day long? Far be it from me to judge. But yeah. Who said that? Luke said it? How much, Luke, are you going to pay for this errant ball hit? If this ball's right in front of you and they're like, $15. I think that's a fair price. $15 fair price. 20, $25? Okay, fine. Anything more than that? Why? He didn't even win. There's a ball hit in the water. I don't know. All right, coming up next, maybe Smiley Kaufman has more opinions on this. His show is next at 12 o'clock. That's followed by Pharrell Coast to Coast at 3. And then we've got Front Office Sports today at 6 o'clock to 6:30. Game time decisions. In-game live game day, and Gabe has Sports Rage tonight. Did Gabe pick Toronto, by the way, to beat the Florida Panthers in that series? Did he bet on them, over and over again to win? Because that was a losing proposition. That'll do it for the show. Thanks again to Gilbert McGregor for coming on the program. In addition, thanks to Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report and Coach Young, as well as Joe Madden. For my director Luke and producer Frank, I'm Craig Mish. We're back here tomorrow with plenty more NBA talk and Stanley Cup Finals talk, as well as some Major League Baseball and WNBA as well. Anything that happens, we'll bring it to you live here on NewsWire. I hope you have a great rest of your day. See you tomorrow.